Howdy, howdy. Sudevil here, and welcome to my pre-game prep for my first tournament game in Shadow Online Gaming's tournament, and it is against the host, Shadow. I'm going to be playing the Lizardmen against his Warriors of Chaos. So this video is just going to be the preparation that went into this match on my side, the thinking, and how I thought about the armies and what I would bring and what I thought Shadow would bring. Now, one of the things I said in my other video about the players is Shadow is very unpredictable. He can bring anything, like literally anything. He always has an idea behind his army, but it's hard to predict what he's going to bring. Unlike some of the other players, like you look at Turin, he brings very on-meta armies. He has lots of gameplay to analyze. You can see what he's going to bring. Shadow has lots of games to analyze, but his armies they can be anything. And I think, just to drive that home, I'm going to show a short clip of a game between Janet on Occasion and Shadow, and it's actually not from Shadow's perspective, it's from Janet's perspective, because I want you to hear his reaction. So here you go, listen to the video.
How's Poison Warhounds? So pretty normal army, really. So yeah, now let's get to Shadows with his his sort of trademark of themed armies. So this is a spider themed army, and I just could not. What do you make of this? It's insane. So he's got two Arachnarok spiders on the edges, right? He's got the Arachnarok Queen in the middle, and he's got a load of Forest Goblin Spider Riders with a load of chevrons on them as well. They're led by a Orc War Boss, because unfortunately there's no Spider Lord, so that's a bit of a shame. And also over here he's got 3 lots of Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers and the Death Creepers as well. And it's just, what do I do? What do I do against this?
Like, this is what I'm up against. You can bring anything. I can't plan. It hurts my dwarf brain. I need something to plan or think about. So I looked at the Chaos armies, some of the Chaos armies he's brought, and I'll just put some of them in right here so you can just get an idea for some of his armies. So these are some of the armies that Shadow's brought before. Here he's got Kolek, some Shagga, some Chosen, some Poison Warhounds, very small, elite, sort of fast army. Here he's got a really big army. He's still got some Warhounds, got Forsaken, a lot of infantry, only one Lord. In this next army, he's got a Lord and 2 heroes. Again, he's got some horsemen, some cavalry, some halberdiers, pretty much anything. That's basically 3 of the builds that he's brought against, not the Lizardmen, obviously, but you can see they're very diverse. So my thinking going into what kind of army he would bring started at the idea that he knows the Lizardmen are going to have some large units. So when I looked, now he could bring any of these lords. He really could. He could bring Sathril, he could bring a Chaos Lord, he could bring Sigvald. But the only lord here with a bonus versus large is Kolek, and he's got a good one, plus 28. So would he bring Foe Seeker? I don't know. He would bring Lord of the Storm though. He's very, very good at magic, and he likes using it. He likes pendulums. He likes, bomb spells. He likes debuffs and everything. Would he bring the Star Crusher? I don't know, but he's gonna bring. He might bring Kolek. Seems like a good pick to me. For magic, there's fire, death, metal, and shadows. I think death is a pretty good pick because you can bring the Spirit Leech and this Fate of Buna. Very safe pick for the items. Forbidden Rod for increased winds of magic. He probably put him on a mount so he can get him around. He'd have life leeching for improved power recharge. Would he have evasion? Maybe, but we'll just go with something cheap. So this is what I thought maybe, like, I really don't know. There is a, well, how many lords are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's approximately just an 11% chance that he'll bring Golek Sun Eater. But he will bring magic. He's very good at magic, whichever way he goes. He will also want some anti-large for sure. So for the infantry, the anti-large start at the Chaos Warriors with halberds and the Chosen with halberds. Now for the cavalry and chariots, there is no anti-large cav options for monsters and beasts. The only anti-large are dragon ogres. And he could bring hell cannons. It's a possibility. I don't know. But we could bring a manticore. But the dragon ogre Shaggoth also has a bonus versus large. So I could definitely see him, bringing some kind of back line with Chaos Warriors with halberds and a dragon ogre Shaggoth to go with Golek to goon someone. So, this kind of was my thinking for his anti-large contingent. Now, one of the things he does like, and you can see in all of his picks, he likes the Chaos Warhounds. I think he likes the poison ones better. And he'll probably want something just in case I have someone up in the air. So he'll probably bring a couple Marauder Horsemen with throwing accents. Something like that. And for infantry, just basic Chaos Warriors, the great weapons are going to be pretty solid in this matchup. He could bring, that could be a little narrow. He could bring some Chaos Marauders, something like this, an army with good armor piercing, some backline support for dinos, some edge support. He's very good on his micro on the edges, and he does like to deploy, does like to Vanguard deploy, and does like to put pressure on the edges, some kind of magic, and some anti-large. Now, my confidence in this type of army, not real great. He could decide, he could decide to go with like a Chaos Lord, put him on a horse with no abilities, take this Shaggoth and have nothing but Chosen. He could have 2 Chosen with halberds and then just a bunch of Chosen with great weapons. Like, this is something he could have. It's and then put a couple, again, Marauder Horsemen on the edges and kind of bang, there's your army. So really hard to plan for. The only thing I was fairly confident is he would have some anti-large options, and he does like the Warhounds, and he's probably going to have Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes in case I bring like a caster in the air or something like that, and he will have magic. Could be anything. Death is a pretty easy pick. I mean, it could be something else. I really don't know. So when I started to plan for the Lizardman, I actually played some games before I knew what Shadow was going to play, just to get a feel for the Lizardman, and I started to develop a build that I liked. I wanted to bring Mazdamundi, and just on his toilet seat, because I do like the abilities he has: a Greater Arcane Conduit, Shield of the Old Ones, Banishment, and Ruination of Cities. You can bring his spell loadout. I like that he can bring Net of Amantok. Harmonic Convergence I like. I really like Curse of the Midnight Wind, that minus 30 armor. That is so good for your Saurus Warriors, because they have good armor piercing, but they have a lot of weapon damage. Comet of Cassandora, Apotheosis, and Arcane Unforging for the heal. Some kind of loadout like that. He's pretty inexpensive. That was kind of my thinking, and that was where I really started my build. These Saurus Warriors of Shields. Now, I know he doesn't have I knew he wasn't going to have a lot of missile infantry, but the Saurus Warriors of Shields, just compared to the straight Saurus Warrior, have 6 extra melee defense, and it's worth it just for the stats. Those Saurus Warriors are quite good. Then I wanted some spears in the back line. I think a couple with shields is what I first started at. So that's kind of my infantry line. I'd played around with the missile infantry and skirmishers. The skink skirmishers are okay, but these chameleon skinks really are good. So I wanted to have some skirmish because chaos infantry can be slow, and when being able to poison things and get a bit of a damage, they have good speed at 48. Can they deal with chaos warhounds? I don't know. They got 24 melee defense and 20 melee attack, and warhounds have 26 melee attack, 17 melee defense. But they have less total units, and these skinks can shoot them from afar. Same with the marauders. So the skinks range is 80. I think the marauders is 70. Yep. But their melee stats are not so good. So these skinks, I thought, would be able to sort of manage and get in some early damage because they can vanguard deploy and just generally help out my back line. I did want a revivification crystal for the heals. I did quite like that. I needed to have some armor piercing, so I built this army over some time and tested it quite a bit. This isn't my final build. I just want to go into my testing, and I'll show some games that I played with this army, and I got crushed so many times. So I also like the idea of these Feral Cold ones, some just cheap, fast units. They're fast enough at 70, but they can just harass the edges. They've got good armor piercing. A rear charge would be pretty good in my estimation. So this was sort of the base army that after about 6 games I'd settled on that I felt pretty good. And then I started training with Zardar. So Zardar and I played different games, played before we knew our opponents and what they would have, but we just knew what we were going to have. And then once we found out what our opponents were going to have, we played some games as the opponents. I would play his opponent, he would play as my opponent, and these are some of the games that we had. So I'm just going to go over to a couple of games I had with Zardar, and then I'll get to my final build and have a bit of a discussion on that and go over the last bit of thinking I did for preparation for this match. Alright, so we're on excavation site, and this is the basic army that I had settled on. I got Mazdamundi, the 2 units of Kroxigors, and the thing that I liked about these chameleon skinks is I can put them out front pretty early. Zardar played some different types of builds so that I could practice on different things and get my army going. So the chameleon skinks I can get them out front early. They're going to get in some early damage. Zardar does have some dragon ogres, chaos warhounds, and he he deployed behind me with these marauder horsemen, and I'm going to send my feral cold ones after them. Basically, I like the idea of delaying my charge a little bit so I can get my chameleon skinks going. I can see these chaos warhounds going, so I really, now I can start that frontline engagement, deploy my spears in the back, keep these spears near Mazdamundi, so I'm just going to deploy them near Mazdamundi and get my revivification crystal kind of up to the front, and send my line is actually quite wide, so I can send them in, engage. These are chaos marauders, not the best engagement for these Kroxigors. He's going to send in Arcan the Everchosen. I've got my chameleon skinks here in the back, and I'm going to pull these guys out at some point. I'm just going to pull them out like that so I can try and get some shots in. So there we go. I've got them all on skirmish so I don't have to micromanage them. The nice part about this is I just sent these feral cold ones after the marauder horsemen, and I've got a unit of sour spears kind of chasing, but he's able to, Zardar's actually got really good micro, and he's able to sort of get around me for the most part. It was really hard to play against. It was actually very, very good practice. But I'm able to get these chameleon skinks generally around, but he's able to get his guys around my line, into my back line, and fighting. Now, the Saurus warriors, even against Chosen, they're lasting. They're getting beat up, for sure, and I've got Chaos warriors here. These Kroxigors are rampaging against Chaos Marauders. But here, this is the weakness of Mazdamundi. He's easy to get surrounded, and I've got my spears going after the wrong target, and I've forgotten Mazdamundi. And now I kind of see him. I got to get him going. I've got to get these guys trying to poison these chosen with halberds, and I'm going to try and heal myself while I'm trying to manage the rest of my battle. Like it's really, really difficult with this build. I had a difficult time getting these chameleon skinks to be effective once the battle got going. And Mazdamundi here, I finally get my spears in to stop, and I was trying to get Mazdamundi out away from these chosen, bring the revivification crystal in, give him some heals. So I think I've got I had apotheosis on him for a little while, but I find it really hard to remember where all my units are and get them back into the battle. So these sour spears aren't even in the battle. You know, I'm starting to get utterly crushed. Mazdamundi is getting ready to rout. I've got cold-blooded on him. I'm gonna put on the Rev crystal for the healing. It doesn't. You get 7 shots of it, but you don't get to use it very frequently. So these dragon ogres are now in the back. I'm just trying to poison them and get my feral cold ones in to keep them down. Get Mazdamundi safe in here. Get these chameleon skinks. I've got them on skirmish, so I'm just trying to keep them attacking. I've got my sour spears. Again, they're going to come back and help support Mazdamundi. But my front line engagement in this case, you can see, you know, these Kroxigors and Saurus Warriors are kind of holding, and I'm holding okay here with these feral cold ones. I got some more Saurus Warriors. I've got some sour spears kind of helping here, but you can see from his perspective, he's easily been able to push this pocket. So just push back right here, and he's been able to quite easily come in on my edges. I don't have a good answer for those Chaos Warhounds and the Marauders with throwing axes. These chameleon skinks just aren't doing it, even with the feral. Where are they? Right here, the feral cold ones, and I'm not able to protect Mazdamundi, so he's just going to come in, finish off Mazdamundi. I have managed to get these dragon ogres off, but he's going to bring in Archaon and finish off Mazdamundi. I haven't been the spears. I just couldn't protect them in that much, so I'm going to fast forward this battle, and you can see Mazdamundi's crushed already. Really, these chameleon skinks are going to last because they're on skirmish. I'm going to keep on pushing my units around. I am going to try and heal Mazdamundi and bring my units back, but I was just struggling to try and keep up with the battle. So that was the fight. So we'll take a look at the end plates. Now, Mazdamundi, I don't know, I play another game with Zardar with the same build against a different build, so we're just trying different builds to see how they went. The Kroxigors were just okay for 1,048 kills, 78 kills, not wonderful. These chameleon skinks performed really well, and the feral cold one's okay too, but I had a hard time getting them to where I wanted to go on the field. The Rev crystal for the heals, not really impressed with it in this fight, but Saurus Warriors 67-41, 51-7. The spears, okay, but they don't have a lot of stopping power. So that was the first battle. So I'm just going to load up the second battle so we can go over it, and then I'll go to my final build and give a little bit of insight into why I made the choices that I made. Alright, so basically we have the same build here for me with the Kroxigors. I got Mazdamundi. The chameleon skinks posted out front, but this time Zardar's brought Kolek Suneater. He's brought some chosen with halberds, a little bit of heavier infantry, but he's also got just regular Chaos Warhounds. And where did he put him? I thought he had him, yeah, there we go. Marauder with throwing axes in the back. Again, I do like how this works out, where these chameleon skinks just shoot. I wanted to let him come a little bit more forward this time, get some spells. I mean, I got good spells, and with Mazdamundi, my idea was I could use his spells, and I could keep this net of Amantok in case he brought Kolek, so I could net him. And that was the idea behind that. So these chameleon skinks are going to work. These Chaos Marauders, again, are coming in, so I'm able to push off with these feral cold ones on this side, but he's just got a free line in on my other flank, I'm not going to be able to deal with these guys really effectively. But I'm getting some good skirmish here. Like, definitely getting good damage on lower tier infantry. You know, these Chameleon Skinks are quite good. You know, he's getting some charges in with his Chaos Warhound, so now I have to go forward and get, you know, try and just get into them and then retreat back and push my main infantry line forward. But you can see he's just going to line up and, you know, shoot into my back line here without any kind of problems. So I've got to get my Feral Cold Ones back to try and deal with these guys. I want to bring some Chameleon Skinks back again to try and deal with these guys. Meanwhile, he's taken his Chaos Warhounds. He's come all the way around to this side. The Chameleon Skinks are putting some damage on him, but again, I'm not able to defend my back line. He's got right in this whole pocket here. Again, I've got my Kroxigors in a little better position this time around. My Saurus Warriors are doing good against the Chaos Marauders. These Chaos Warriors with great weapons are coming in, but I've got some poison going on to them. I brought my Kroxigors back, healed them. I'll be able to bring them back. I have netted Kolak Suneater. I wanted to get these Kroxigors in there to fight him, and these Sour Spears in to fight Kolek as well. So I've got some stopping power in there. I've been able to kind of stabilize this front line and hold it reasonably well, but now here come the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. They're starting to push in, and he's just force passing these through. He's got chosen with halberds. You know, I've got a pocket on this side where my infantry is doing all right, but he's starting to definitely collapse over here. The Kroxigors, I spend a little more time healing them this time around to try and make them last a little longer, and I wanted to keep this Chameleon Skinks operating on both sides if I could. But he's got lots of pressure in this back line. Like, he keeps coming in and coming around. I've been able to sort of push off and this back line all right and maintain this side, but I can't maintain both sides. So Zardar is just going to keep on coming around and around on me. He's keep on putting pressure, and this really puts pressure on me because I don't have good micro, so I'm constantly trying to push guys off. And now Mazdamundi, I can see this battle is ended. You know, so he can just come in here, come after Mazdamundi, pull out to this side, pull around to this side. My line is starting to collapse. This Rev Crystal is not doing enough. The Kroxigors, now he's got the halberds up against them, and he's just pushing into my back line rather easily. So from here, again, I'm just going to try and get Mazdamundi out, you know, get him away. But he's not fast enough, and you can see it's so easy to get him isolated. For a really good player that's good at micro, maybe you can do this with Mazdamundi, but I just wanted to get to an open space here, but here come the Marauders. He's just going to start shooting into me from here, and now he's just going to send Kolak right after Mazdamundi. You know, at some point I'm going to notice that, but I'm trying to poison Kolak, but I don't have any stopping power. I mean, I can't stop Kolak Suneater at all, and he's just gonna walk over and start stomping on me. You know, he just brought these Chaos Warriors to the back. He's just pushing. He's just basically opening up this whole side, pushing out this whole side. Again, he's dominated my center, been able to come in mostly on this side, and now he's isolated Lord Mazdamundi, and Kolak is just going to absolutely stomp him. So here it goes. I couldn't really do anything at this time because my units weren't cohesive enough, and I didn't have any stopping power. I kept poisoning Kolak, but I couldn't stop him or slow him down. So he's just going to go and clean up kind of the rest of my units. There's not a whole lot left to the battle, but again, another defeat. So we look at the end plates. Again, Saurus Warriors did okay. They're just a solid, decent infantry. 78, 74, 31, 64. Spears, not super great. You know, Chameleon Skinks, again, all right. 34, 45, 34, 45. And they put pressure on. The Feral Cold Ones, okay. Kroxigors didn't perform, and I healed them. I really tried to focus on healing them, and Mazdamundi just got stomped. This Rev Crystal just didn't do a whole lot. You know, these Chaos Warriors, great weapons. Solid pick. these Warhounds and these Marauder Horsemen, I know that Shadow likes these guys, and I can't handle them. They're with this build. I just can't. These Kroxigors are just underperforming. Like, I need a unit of Kroxigors to be able to come in and pound Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Do something reasonable against some of these armored factions, or come in and hurt Kolek Sun Eater, or destroy aspiring champions. These guys are really cheap, but they just don't. So that was kind of where that was. Fortunately, I was able to have a good long discussion. I think Zardar and I played 6 or 7 battles. He won all of them handily. Just like, those were the last 2. Those were my best performances with these armies, and I got absolutely crushed. And he said, these Kroxigors they're just not performing. He also said the spears. That's one of the things he noted. The spears. He said you need Temple Guard. You just need Temple Guard in that backline to protect you. And he said Mazda Mundi can't cut it. He said bring Kroq-Gar, because Kroq-Gar is a much more powerful lord. So I started basically from here after that battle a little bit, it's like when you get crushed over and over and over and over, it can be frustrating, but as long as you're learning from it every time and making some progress, it's not so bad. So Kroq-Gar, put him on Grimlock, give him all his abilities, Swiftness of Itzel so he can explode and run through lines, Deadly Onslaught for that charge bonus, Sacred Spawning of Zwaddle so that he has a physical resistance and vigor. He has anti-large, good weapon damage, he bonus versus large of 35, and I like actually the Hand of the Gods. It's kind of neat too. These magic missiles can do a lot of damage, so I thought I'm just bringing Kroq-Gar fully loaded, 2802. He's as awesome as he's going to get. Now, the Chameleon Skinks performed okay. This Rev Crystal didn't. I just didn't like it. I wasn't sure about these Feral Cold ones. I had a real hard time managing them. So I couldn't do the Chameleon Skinks and the Feral Cold ones all at the same time, but I did like what the Chameleon Skinks did. Like, they can get up front and they can put on early pressure. I really kind of liked what they could do. Add the poison damage, but they couldn't get around the battlefield. They're not quite fast enough and they don't quite have the range. So I wanted a different option. So I looked at these Pterodon Riders. They have decent missile damage. They do poison. They're fast at 90. They can't quite catch Chaos, the Warhounds, because the Warhounds I think are 95, and these Marauder Horsemen are 90. So, but they're flyers, so they can still get in that early damage because they do have Vanguard deployment, and they can fire while moving, and they do have dropping these rocks, weak against armor, I think, small strike, and they can cause fear, which is, it's not nothing. So I kind of replaced these 4 Pterodon Riders, or the Chameleon Skinks with these Pterodon Riders, because it'll be easier for me to manage. They're up in the air. If he has the Marauder Horseman, I can sort of deal with it. I can send, if he has 2 of these guys, I have 4 of these guys, so these 4 will be able to take the 2. I can send them after routers. I really did kind of like that. I also like the idea, these Saurus Warriors performed really good, of just bringing an extra Saurus Warrior with shields, just to bolster my front line, make it a little bit beefier. Now for my magic, I wanted to bring a Skink Priest up in the air. Again, I have the ability to defend the air, even if he brings a Manticore. It's not great, but the Skink Priest, when he's up in the air, speed is 90, he's fast enough. Don't need Roiling Skies, I don't think, to defend against other aerial things. The items, Cube of Darkness for the reduced power recharge rate, the 25% miscast chance for around 55 meters around myself, I didn't think that was great. But the spells I wanted to take are, again, I really like this Harmonic Convergence, Wind Blast, not a super big fan of. I love Curse of the Midnight Wind, the Ernan's Thunderbolt, Comet of Cassandora, Chain Lightning. Something like this I did quite like. For some reason, I seem to think that I must have missed something here because I thought I had it at 0. But this is my basic army. Very, very simple. Easy for me to manage as a dwarf. I have good, strong backline support. The spell loadout, I want to say, I'm sure I took Curse of the Midnight Wind, Harmonic Convergence. I really like that because that minus 30 armor for the Saurus Warriors, they have decent armor piercing at 18, but they have really big weapon damage. So the minus 30 armor is really going to help them, and their Harmonic Convergence I really quite like. So for some reason I think I had I have this as 0. I'll have to kind of figure out where I'm missing some of my gold, but figure that's kind of a basic army that I'm going to take up against Shadow. Now, what is he going to bring? Oh man, I just don't know. If he can bring something heavy with Chosen, the thing I can do, if he does bring a real heavy Chosen armor, the Chosen will beat the Saurus Warriors, but they did see the Saurus Warriors will last. If I put on that Harmonic Convergence, or Curse of the Midnight Wind, minus 30 armor, minus 26 melee attack, and I'm shooting in the back with these Pterodon Riders from the sky to poison them, I can make it last for sure, and I can get Kroq-Gar sort of around the field. And yeah, I don't have anything really to protect my edges as though I was going to box up. Like I do kind of like to do that boxy type formation as the Dao-E. At least I can defend my backline. These Temple Guards are going to be scary for Kholek or anything that comes in the backline. They're very good. They have a 16 bonus versus large. They do have armor piercing damage, so they can get into melee combat. They have decent stats, 32 and 38, but you put Harmonic Convergence on them, they're going to be incredibly strong up in the air. On the back line. And I can move these Pterodon Riders wherever I point them because they're in the air, so I can fly them right across the battlefield, and they're fast. So I don't think they're as good as the Chameleon Skinks, but that was my thinking when I put this army together. So obviously I'm going to release this after I played the battle, and but before we air it, so you can see my thinking going into the entire thing. The analysis I did, trying to think about what Shadow might bring, the testing and practice I did to develop this final build against Chaos, which, I mean, I don't know if it's the best build against Chaos. I honestly don't. I'm not a Lizardmen player. I'm a dwarf. But this is my dwarf mind at work. I a solid frontline infantry. They're going to be pretty robust. Oh, maybe I put in something like that. Maybe that's what I did. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how I put this, but a solid army, decent frontline. I've got a good lord. He can do some damage. I got the magic that I want. He's cheap. He's up in the air. So, and these Pterodon Riders can go wherever I like them. They're kind of like a gyrocopter, which I have used for gyrocopters before, and I do quite like the ability to move gyrocopters around in the air when you're not being pressured by anything. So this sort of fits my playstyle. Feels good. Now, again, when this airs, the battle's already aired. It is what it is. I can't change anything, but I still want to hear comments. I want to hear your thoughts on the army that I presented, especially if you've played this matchup, Lizardmen versus Chaos. As a Lizardman, what you found was good, or as Chaos, what you like with Chaos against the Lizardmen, how you think the match is going to play out, where the weaknesses are, where they can be badly exploited, or where they're going to be strong. Really just your ideas and thoughts about the build would be very interesting to me, and I love hearing that type of analysis and comments in general. So definitely want to hear some comments down below. Go also for the battle. Obviously, I'm going to show the battle, but also go and see it from Shadow's perspective. Now, this is the one battle where you're only going to get 2 perspectives. The other battles, this is an absolutely awesome idea, because you can see the battle. For example, let's say I was playing Zardar. I don't play him, but you could see it from Zardar's perspective, from my perspective, and then it's going to be cast by Shadow on his channel. So you get to see the battle from 3 perspectives. You hear the inner thoughts of the people playing on each side, and then what an objective observer gets to see about the games, and then you get to have your thoughts about the game. This extra stuff, I don't think anyone will do anything like this with the analysis and the thought process and how I've gone about it, obviously, but that's, the oldest person in the tournament. My micro's not good. I'm not a dwarf. I'm only a dwarf player, but I am good at planning. I'm good at testing, and I like thinking about my builds, and that's where I can excel, and that's where I hope to at least make my army reasonably competitive in each matchup. That's the idea that I have behind this. So again, hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.